it did something similar to that. I couldn't quite figure that one out though. Do you remember that one, Owen?
That's it's I don't recall it straight away, but it does sound familiar for some reason. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, me either. I had a problem with ogres anyway.
Sure. I mean, yeah, of all things, to be able to cast anywhere, I mean that's pretty darn bugged.
It's crazy.
Oh, okay. In GameStorm, yeah, that sounds kind of familiar.
One of the coolest things that happened, I remember in Darkness Falls, I think it was on GameStorm 2, is someone was able to control the Insane Necromancer. And he had an insane amount of health. He did pretty good damage too, and they would take him to the original Deadlands to hunt with. But I could never figure out how they managed to do that. Went to the whole hospital and got them the best pet in the game. Hey Naina, we have those maps. Thank you so much, though. The world map. Do you know actually who created that? Did you ever find out?
It sure is, ToeClan. That's anytime you see me move, that's me using the numpad, and we've also implemented some extras as far as. I believe in the old games the 0 key was look, so we have that, and then we also added the plus and minus keys allow you to move up and down. So it's a little backwards kind of because the minus key actually takes you up if there's an up exit, and the plus key makes you go down. So basically, up is the top key is up and the bottom key is down. So
it's not backwards then. It's just right. Just right. It really is from your finger standpoint of view.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I mean. But from my standpoint, I was like, oh yeah, minus, means
like
going
taking
down,
away and going down.
Yeah, so that's the.
But whenever I found that was so cool, I'm glad that they added that. Yeah, those other people, I'm glad they added that. I'm glad that you and Mike got that added because it's a really good feature.
Alright, Scott says, can you make a shopkeeper for the guild hall? So instead of just dropping gear, you could sell it to the guild shopkeeper for 0. That guilders could then buy for 0. That would make it worthless to resell. That way you can drop needed gear without clutter. That's actually a really good idea. I like that a lot. I mean, I don't see why we can't. I mean, I think implementing that is fairly straightforward. I think it's just a matter of debating on the overall concept, and if it's too good or or whatever.
That's absolutely a way. Another way you could do it, since it's guild gear, you could just specifically code that gear to just poof after X amount of time it's been on the floor. If you didn't want to implement a shop, but I think a shop's fine. You could sell like just the very low level stuff there, stuff that new players would need anyway.
Right. Or people could not trash the place.
That's not going to happen.
Messy people.
Or you could have the items that were dropped explode after a random amount of time.
Yeah. And the higher quality of the gear, the more damage it does. Yeah. Mithril shards pierce through your eyeballs. You're dead.
Hey, now that's giving me an idea. Cox gets that ability too, right?
That'll be the new crafty skill. Yeah. Instead of like melee and double, they'll just take off their gear and make it explode.
Love it. Love everything about it.
Yes, Scott, we will take that idea from you gladly. Thank you, sir. Yeah, no, not allowing them to profit off it is a good idea. That's, I mean, not to get too geeky, but that also reminds me of some mechanics for another class type, and that is that would be called the kind of the psionicist, or the mind telepath magician, if you will. I know, and I'm heavily biased towards that kind of class, just as an idea because of a game, another MUD that I played for 13 years or something, off and on, and one of the main classes there is the psionicist. It's very cool. Basically, a mentalist from Mage Storm is probably the closest you guys would know, or would remember, and but kind of add a few other things like kinetic spells, controlling objects and making them explode, or dancing weapon, stuff like that. It's a prototype that we may look at later down the line, just for fun. The name of that MUD is called Avatar, and it was hosted by Outland.org, and it's a Deku MUD that evolved over something like 25 years. So it's basically probably one of the best, if not the best, Deku MUDs in existence right now. Shattered Kingdoms, nice. I recall that name, but I don't think I ever played it though. But that's cool. I mean, it's certainly none of these MUDs are anything close, but some of them are worth some salt.
Bad Mug was interesting. I enjoyed it, but I couldn't get into it. I really tried, but it was an interesting game nonetheless.
Tooklan says, when we're ready to release, what are you going to do to try to pull new people in? There's going to be some effort in that area. Don't get me wrong. We're not going to push so hard because we're not going for profit or anything. But basically, the resources that we have right now are the MUD sites, in particular, that are all for the top MUDsites.com, and there's one other main forum basically for MUDs nowadays, and it's a strange audience to try to reach out to, but that will probably be the most logical start. And then I think maybe once things are released, maybe we'll get some notice here and there from other groups. Twitch might help us expand a little bit. I think Twitch has probably already helped us get some attention. So I think things will kind of evolve from that naturally. Oh, okay. But yeah, Scott, I do like that idea very much. Guild Vault or Bank is probably a cool implementation that doesn't throw things out of balance too much, and it's a cool feature. So I'm definitely adding that to the list. Sexy modes? Not sure about that. You can have your basics, and then what you do with them in your private time is up to you.
Tell them to go pick out a CD room in Southern Wars and go at it.
I'm sure there's 3 inns just waiting for you.
Exactly.
Also, what about issues with EA if they find this project? You seem to be using the original art as UI. EA might have a problem with that, of course. It's a hobby. It's not for profit or anything. And we do understand that the images we're using right now are the original art, but when we finish, they will not include the original art. So that's why the first effort has been to recreate the portraits for the characters themselves, because that's kind of the most intricate, or maybe time-consuming, aside from the the user interface. But we're going to utilize a mixture of free assets, because there's so many of them nowadays, and we're going to find ones that replicate the original art. And with obviously like donations from today and in the past, we'll be able to afford, maybe even Rashka or just anybody that can create specific assets that are really nice and actually work for this game, because not all assets are perfect, So, and then as far as EA finding notice, we are we're kind of mavericks, or I at least imagine myself, this project is kind of a maverick project, because I want them to notice. I want them to realize that that we're actually passionate about this, and but we're also willing to do it the right way. We're not trying to rip anybody off. So. But at the same time, it's like, hey, yeah, go ahead and open the can of worms that is the game. Let's get it back out there. So I think anything that comes of that is not negative. So we say bring it on.
Yeah, all gone. I mean, I honestly don't believe it's even in their interest to try, because they're going to have to prove exactly what they own. And from what I understand, so many parties own so many little things in about Darkness Falls, it's just not going to be worth their time or effort to even try anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we know that they don't give a shit, and so that's why we don't either. But we're trying to do it in a tactful way. We're not just saying, oh, screw EA or anything. But we just we appreciate the fact that we have a community still, so we're able to do something. And if they say, hey, gosh, this sure looks like something we might own, you got to change it, then we've already made the movements to actually alter it, and I can tell you personally that I'm doing my best to kind of keep it authentic and not too different, because obviously the last thing we would want is to play a game that doesn't feel like Darkness Falls. So that's one of the main goals throughout.
Absolutely, by the way. I think that you're doing a great job with these new areas by doing that. And if we absolutely have to, we can change the areas little by little until it is a completely different game, if we have to. And
Right.
once the framework is in place, all the areas are in place the way that we remember them, we can just move from there, change it little by little. And that's not going to be nearly as difficult as actually getting to the point where it's a really full, fleshed out game. So I wouldn't worry about that really at all.
Exactly. Yeah. So we want to get a foundation in. We'll make tweaks, and so that way it feels like we're playing the game, and then anything that needs to happen will just happen naturally.
And one more thing, it's not like you did it willy nilly. You did contact people at EA. You've been
Oh yeah,
contacting for several
absolutely.
years. You did right after the game pretty much ended, maybe a little bit later, like in what 2008. So you've tried multiple channels to do it quote legit unquote.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Like
have, Dale has, I'm sure Crows did too, and you
yeah.
unfortunately can't get anywhere with them now at all. They're not
Exactly.
interested in even hearing from you now about it.
They aren't, and that's why like I almost wish I have daydreams sometimes of sitting in a courtroom with some EA bigwig, yelling like you can't do this, and then I would kind of go on the countermeasure saying, okay, well let's look at what you guys have done. You've broken apart a game that was a beloved game in a community, and you shut it off. You didn't allow any access to it. You've continuously shot us down. We've offered money in multiple cases, and we've offered to do the work, and et cetera, et cetera. and then just kind of in having them basically